I am leaving the country for 2.5 weeks, and before I go, I'm getting really busy in the kitchen to stock the freezer up with delicious meals to feed my family of 6 while I'm away. I love being a mom and homemaker, and I enjoy the challenge of feeding them.
My goal for today is to make some fully cooked meals that go straight from the freezer to the oven.
So I'm headed to the store and stocking up on everything I need to make some of my favorite simple and go-to recipes to make mealtime super convenient. I'll be sharing recipes with you and kitchen hacks to keep an efficient and smooth running kitchen while batch cooking. I am no professional chef, so don't expect perfection here, but just a mom who loves to cook, get things done, and create a cozy environment at home. So welcome into my kitchen. I hope you feel right at home here. I started off my cooking adventure by stocking up groceries at my favorite grocery store, which is Aldi. I'm doing a lot of pasta-based meals for this freezer meal prep day. I just think that's going to be easiest for my family, so I can make things fully ahead of time, and all they have to do is stick them in the oven and heat them up. So this is everything I got at Aldi, and now I'm moving on to my worst nightmare, which is Costco, and it's pouring rain. Our Costco is always super packed and it's just stressful for me, but I got what I needed and got out of there as quickly as possible.
Getting fully rained on at this point. Good job.
Boom. Okay.
Boom.
What's for dinner?
Stew. Mac and cheese.
We got all the groceries put away. I've actually noticed that I usually spend less money when I do these freezer meal prep days because I have such a clear list and a plan. For dinner, we had Instant Pot beef stew. I'm just putting that away. And then before bed, I'm going to get some bone broth started so that I have that for tomorrow. So I just put some bones in the Instant Pot and I'm going to set it to high pressure for 4 hours. And then in the morning, I'll add some veggies and do another hour. I had some frozen meat thawing on the counter, and now I'm going to put it in the fridge overnight because I'm going to need it tomorrow. I always like to set the ambiance in the kitchen on a cooking day like this. It was a beautiful rainy day. I opened a window and my hydrangeas were in bloom, so I cut some of those, and now I'm making my morning smoothie, which I make every morning, but I'm definitely going to need all that protein today. Before I really get started, I wanted to take a minute to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, which is Needed.
I've been using Needed supplements for about 7 months now, so I was already a fan before they reached out to me for this sponsorship. So I'm excited to share them with you today. Needed was created by 2 women and trained nutritionists who are passionate about transforming women's health through better nutrition. Recognizing the gaps in prenatal and postnatal care, they developed a comprehensive nutritional system for fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and lifelong women's health. I have been taking their prenatal supplements for a while, not because I'm pregnant, but I am open to life and would love to have another baby if God blessed us with one. But regardless, I know I'm not getting all the nutrients that I need in my daily life, so I'm glad to have a high quality supplement that is filling any of the gaps in my diet. One of the reasons why I chose Needed supplements over all the other brands out there is because they had a really strong brand promise. They promise optimal nutrient levels and rigorous third-party testing. Needed doses nutrients beyond the bare minimums and is designed for maximum absorption, and they have 0 tolerance for unnecessary fillers. There is so much to the journey of motherhood that you can't control, but nutrition is one area that you can.
Right now, Needed is offering an extra 20% off your first order, including one-time purchases or already discounted subscriptions and plans. Head to the link in my description box or use my code christinesnotebook at checkout. The first item on the agenda today is to make a double batch of my favorite lasagna recipe, which is on my blog and linked in the description. I'm starting by chopping 2 onions in the food processor.
Ready? Yeah!
So for this lasagna recipe, I'm making a slow simmered meat sauce and I'm doing a double batch. So I have 2 pounds of ground beef and 2 pounds of pork here, and I'm seasoning it really well. I'm adding a teaspoon of sage, thyme, pepper, 2 teaspoons of oregano, a teaspoon of basil, 2 teaspoons of garlic, and a teaspoon of onion powder, and then 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then I'm just mixing this all up really well, and then I'm gonna saute those 2 onions in the pot and then add all of that meat. I thought I should add the seasonings in with the meat first because there's so much here, so it's gonna take a minute for everything to mix together and cook. I'm going to be doing a lot of tasks in the kitchen today, all simultaneously, so hopefully this is easy to follow, but I'm adding 2 tablespoons of white vinegar and 2 tablespoons of maple syrup to this meat and giving that a minute to simmer a bit more. And now I'm washing my celery and I'm going to blend up my veggies for a mirepoix, which I'm gonna need for the beef ragu recipe that I have planned. And this time I'm utilizing my food processor for all of the chopping just to save me some time in the kitchen today. To the meat, I added 2 28-ounce cans of San Marzano whole tomatoes, which I had blended, and then I added 4 tablespoons of tomato paste and 2 cans of diced tomatoes. I'm getting some Parmesan cheese prepped for the cheese mixture now. I'm pulling everything out now that I need for the lasagna cheese mixture. For this double batch, I need 3 cups of cottage cheese, 3 cups of ricotta cheese, a cup of Parmesan cheese, 2 teaspoons of oregano, 4 tablespoons of fresh parsley chopped, which I didn't have, so I used dried parsley, and then a teaspoon of salt. I actually just noticed I had a bit of leftover chopped parsley, so I went ahead and added that. This is my cheese mixture, and I'm just gonna set that to the side. Now I'm moving on to making my turkey ricotta meatballs.
All right, so things are coming along nicely. My lasagna sauce needs to simmer for another hour. I have my cheese mixture and my shredded cheese ready, so all I'll have to do for that is assemble. So that we're gonna put to the side. My bone broth is cooling over there on the stove, so I will need that soon. And right now I'm gonna move on to making the turkey ricotta meatballs.
For these meatballs, I need 2 pounds of ground turkey, and these packs come in more than 1 pound per pack, so I'm taking some of it out to save for later for another time. Now I'm adding in a cup of ricotta cheese, which uses up the last of the ricotta, a cup of panko breadcrumbs, which I'm so glad I had because I forgot it at the store, and then add in 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And then you need a cup of Parmesan cheese. I only had Pecorino Romano at this point, so I'm using that, and I'm blending it up in the Vitamix to get a powdered cheese, and then I'll add that. Then I'm just mixing that up really well with my hands, and I'm gonna bake it at 400 for 20 to 25 minutes. Make sure you grease the pan with olive oil because these will stick. I ended up using parchment paper on the second round of meatballs. I have a lot of meat here, so I'm gonna have to do this in 2 batches. So the first pan is going in the oven. Moving on to a new task now, I am going to boil some water for some egg noodles that I'm going to use for sour cream noodle bake. So I'm going to go out and get what I need for that. It's very, very simple. This recipe is from Pioneer Woman, and I'm going to start by just browning some meat with some onions. At this point, I realized I needed more meat. I forgot I was doubling it, and so I needed 2 pounds of ground beef. So instead, I just pulled out the ground turkey that I had just stuck in the freezer. Now I'm just adding 4 of those small 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce to this meat, as well as some fresh pepper, about a ½ teaspoon, and then just let it simmer for a bit. Now my first pan of meatballs is out, and I'm just gonna transfer that to a tray. As you can see, they were sticking a bit, not a big deal. Now I'm just getting my second tray of meatballs into the oven. At this point, my kitchen was being put to good use. I had my meat simmering, I had my pasta boiling, I had my lasagna sauce simmering. It feels really good to put my kitchen to good use. If you've been following my channel, you'll see that I did a whole kitchen renovation series, and so this kitchen is a dream come true, and I love working in this space.
Well, this is kind of a bummer, but looking at these pans, I just don't think this is gonna be enough pasta for one meal for my family. So I'm gonna boil another bag, and then I'll mix the meat and everything else into this.
What does this thing at the bottom spell?
Waiter.
While I'm working in the kitchen, my kids are all just playing around the house, and it makes my mama heart so happy to see it. I'm just finishing up the pasta for the sour cream noodle bake. I was trying to ladle out the pasta and not drain it completely, but it didn't work out. So I ended up draining it, and I'm gonna have to heat up another pot of water for the next thing that I'm doing. But into this pasta, I'm adding a cup of sour cream into each tray, then a cup and a half of cottage cheese into each tray, and then you can just mix that up, and then I will pour the meat mixture into each tray, splitting it in half. Now keep in mind, I'm sharing with you what I'm doing today, but not all of the amounts are exact according to the recipes, so just follow the links in the description if you want to make any of these dishes.
I am getting a lot done, but I can feel a lunch and coffee break coming on. I think I need a little reset before I do the rest of the meals. But so I'm gonna just scoop out the rest of this cottage cheese because there was only a little bit left, and why not? So here we have the sour cream and noodle bake. This is from Pioneer Woman. I'm just gonna cover it with cheese, and then I'm going to cover it with foil, and I'm gonna write on the foil to bake at 375 covered for 45 minutes. So that's basically just my goal for today, is to make some fully cooked meals that go straight from the freezer to the oven. It's definitely more work on the front end. The last time I did this, it was a lot easier because it was just kind of like dump it meals where you just put chicken and stuff in a bag and freeze it and call it a day. And I'm gonna do a couple of those, but mostly we're doing meals that are ready to go. So let me cover this.
So I mentioned that I'm going out of the country and I'm going to be gone for 2.5 weeks. I've never left my family for this long, so I'm nervous, but I'm also excited. I think it's going to be a really memorable trip, and I know that my husband can handle it at home. He's told me to go, that he's got it covered, but I just feel better if I leave them with a stocked freezer before I head out of town, just to make things easier. Plus, I'm going to be spending money when I'm away, and I'd like to save as much money as we can at home. All right, I know you are probably wondering where I'm going, so I'm meeting up with my sister who is on her solo adventure right now backpacking around Europe, and we are going to walk 160 miles across the Portuguese Camino together. So I'll be leaving with just a backpack that I'll carry the whole time and sleeping in little albergues. I had this idea to go on this trip, but didn't think I would actually do it if it weren't for my husband encouraging me to go. In fact, I wouldn't be doing half of the things that I do without him always encouraging me to overcome my fears and do what I feel inspired to do. We don't normally eat this much pasta, but I just thought this would be the easiest thing to make ahead of time and stick in the freezer. And then this is the slow simmered lasagna sauce. This is so yummy. You should definitely try this. I posted this recipe on my blog in detail, so you can definitely make it. I'm doing a double batch, but the recipe is for a single batch. But this is a great make-ahead meal. It's so easy to make a double batch of this, and it's very filling. Each of these meals should last like 2 days, I think, for my family.
I want to help you with this.
All right, you can help make the cheese. You ready? Good.
That's what I was thinking.
Another one right next to it. Good.
Wait, cheese.
I wasn't sure what to write on the foil here, but I decided on 375 for 45 minutes covered. And then I instructed my husband to take the foil off and give it another 10 to 15 minutes to just toast the cheese a little bit more. And I have some leftover lasagna sauce, so I'm gonna put that in a bag and store it in the freezer. And I do love how this recipe makes extra sauce, so I can make some spaghetti or whatever at another time.
Well, I took a break. I made myself some lunch and a coffee, which I desperately needed. And the rain is really coming down now, and it's honestly adding such a cozy ambiance to this kitchen right now. And I feel like I did enough for today. I made definitely a full week's worth of meals for my family that they can just take from the freezer to the oven. And I have a few more things I'm gonna make, but I think I'm gonna call it a day for today and pick it up again tomorrow morning when I'm feeling fresh. Just having a moment here. You want to show me your fort?
Yeah.
All right. So this is what the kids have been up to while I've been cooking. They have been making a fort. Ooh, that looks good.
I didn't want people leaning.
Let's see it.
Leaning on it and then falling. It's technically just this.
Oh my goodness.
And then?
Oh, and there's like another room over there. Really cool.
And then you tighten it down.
Yeah.
And then you out.
We'll pick it up again tomorrow, right, boys?
Yeah.
They'll work on their fort, and I'll work on making lots of food.
Yeah.
Now I'm feeling refreshed and I'm moving on to making a meal I'm really excited to make, and that is beef ragu. This recipe is from Joshua Weissman. He did a whole video on this recipe, so I'm trying to follow his instructions. I have a lot of meat here, so I'm searing it in 2 batches. And then I have 2 pounds of cherry tomatoes that I'm roasting. For the meat, you want to sear it well on all sides. That middle piece was sticking still. That's how you know that it needs more time. It should easily pull off the pan. So you want a nice crust on all sides of the meat. I used bone marrow when I was cooking this, so there was a lot of splattering. But I had some extra bone marrow from when I made broth a while back, and so I really just wanted to use it, and it adds lots of good flavor. While that is going on, I'm grabbing the ingredients I need for chicken enchiladas. I'm going to cook some chicken in the Instant Pot and shred it. Meanwhile, I'm still working on my beef ragu. I'm pulling out the mirepoix that I made yesterday. I was planning on making this recipe yesterday, but decided it would be better, since this is sort of a special recipe, to make it today. And we are actually gonna have it for dinner, and I'm just gonna freeze the leftovers.
This one's a little longer. All right, we got some time. I just remembered that these were in the oven, and it's a good thing because they were just about overly cooked. I think this will actually be perfect though.
Now I'm adding a bunch of minced garlic to the sauteed veggies, and then I'm adding 4 tablespoons of tomato paste. Then I'm scooping up all those roasted tomatoes and plopping them in the pan. And then for all of the flavor, I'm adding balsamic vinegar, red wine, and bone broth. I'm doing a double batch, so this pot looks really full, but ideally a single batch would work better. Then you're going to take your whole pot and put it in an oven at 250 or 275 for 3.5 to 4 hours. With the rest of the chuck roast meat, I'm making French dip sandwich meat that goes into the slow cooker. This recipe is on my website. I'm going to start off by making a spice blend, and I will link the recipe in the description. And then you just pour that all into the bag, and then I'm also adding in a little bit of broth and some tomato paste and a tiny bit of bone marrow just because I had it, and that will slow cook all day and turn into a delicious meat for sandwiches. I took a break after lunch because we had to film a little clip for a campaign that the cabinet joint is running, and it features my kitchen renovation.
Okay, it's cute. Okay, so. Oh, my toe! Don't look right at the camera, be a little bit.
For everything home. 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 I'm alive. I forgot.
After that, we rewarded everyone with crumble cookie, and then I moved on with the rest of my cooking day.
Cheers. All right, grand finale. Let's finish.
This recipe is also on my blog, and it's linked in the description. I shredded some chicken, and now I'm sauteing some onions in a large saute pan. My garage fridge is almost empty now, just grabbing some shredded cheese, which I'll need for these enchiladas. Once again, this is a double batch. I'm adding 2 8-ounce cans of tomato sauce and 2 4-ounce cans of green chilies. Sometimes I add a can of diced tomatoes as well, but this time I did not, and I like how it turned out. I also added a little bit of chili powder and cumin to the shredded chicken, and then I started adding in about 2 cups of shredded cheeses. You can also add some beans to this if you like. I didn't have any on hand and I wasn't prepared to cook dry beans today, so I just went with that. I had some leftover shredded chicken, so I'm putting that in a container which we can use throughout the week for various meals. And now I'm going to assemble my enchiladas. Very self-explanatory, just put some meat in the tortilla and roll it up. I have some delicious homemade enchilada sauce that I made a couple of days ago, and I had it in the fridge, and I'm gonna use the rest of that for these freezer enchiladas. I made these differently in my last video because I didn't have tomato sauce, so this is a little more true to the recipe. But if you go back to my last video, which was about summer meals and snacks, you'll see exactly how to make this enchilada sauce. I really like it, and I also left the link in the description so you can have all the details and instructions. So now I'm just topping it with cheese, and then I'll cover it up and put it in the freezer. To bake it from frozen, I'm just guessing here, but I wrote on the foil to bake it at 375 for 30 minutes, and then to take the foil off and give it another 10 to 15 minutes. So that is it. Here's my binder full of all the recipes I had printed for this video and past videos. I was able to get almost everything done. There were two things I was hoping to make that I did not make. That's mac and cheese and Hawaiian chicken tacos. I am just calling it a wrap. This is the most that I can do for now, and I think it's more than enough. So here you have it. Here is everything I made on 2 days of cooking, and this should set up my family really well for 2.5 weeks while I am away.
All right, guys, well, that is a wrap. I was able to get 2 trays of my favorite lasagna, 2 trays of sour cream noodle bake, 2 trays of enchiladas, and 2 trays of spaghetti and meatballs. Then I have a large batch of French dip sandwich meat that can go in the slow cooker. And I have a double batch of beef ragu, which we're gonna have for dinner tonight. And when that cools, I'll put the rest of it in the freezer. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this epic cooking weekend. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I don't do this super often, but I did want to do this before I left out of town. I hope you got some ideas and feel motivated in the kitchen. And this should probably be the last video that I post for a few weeks because I'm going to be gone. But I am going to try to put together a video of some of my favorite recipes over the past year, some family dinners and just some favorites. So if I can get that together, I'll be posting that while I'm out of town. But otherwise, I will see you when I get back. I hope you have a great summer and have lots of time outdoors, spend lots of time with your family, and I will see you next time.